video was created several years ago using a previous version of Visual Studio. The differences to the current version of Visual Studio are primarily cosmetic, most notably the older window styles, and everything discussed applies to today's working environment. As time permits, I will redevelop this video so it's current with the most recent version of Visual Studio.
Our next control is the PictureBox. In the common controls, you can click the PictureBox control and draw a box from one corner to the diagonally opposite corner. And there's only a few properties here we're going to look at. One of those, and probably the most important property, is the image property. You'll notice there's a button here with 3 ellipses, which means it's going to bring up a dialog box. And I can choose to pull a file from my local drive, which means it's going to need to find it each time, or I can import a image into my application, and then it will actually be compiled with the application. I'm going to go ahead and choose import, and I'm going to go find a file that I want to use. So I select my image, click open. It will now be part of my project resources, and I can refer to this even from other controls. I'm simply going to click OK, and it's going to place that image in my PictureBox. Now the image is a little bit larger than my PictureBox, and there's a couple things that we can do to manage an image within a PictureBox, and that is to go down to the SizeMode property. Right now it's set to normal, which means the image is simply displayed in the PictureBox as much of it as will fit in it, and the left-hand corner of the image is at the 0, 0 coordinate of my PictureBox. One thing I can do is center the image inside that PictureBox, but I can also choose auto size, which will make the PictureBox size to the image itself. It's always a good idea to know how large your images are. I took this image into Photoshop and reduced it down to 300 pixels by 200 pixels. And you notice that when I chose auto size, that was the size that came up here. I'm going to go back to normal and look at some of the other options here. One is to stretch the image, which would make the image conform to the PictureBox. Now the disadvantage of that is if your PictureBox is of a different proportion than your image is going to stretch. You might make, especially if it's a person or something, it might make that person very thin or very wide. I tend to avoid stretching. I would either, in most cases, I'm always probably going to choose auto size and make my image in the graphics program the same size as my PictureBox. If I've got an icon or something I'm using, I might want to center that image, or maybe even use normal. Again, if my PictureBox is the same size as that icon. So that's how we can work with an image in a PictureBox. Obviously, it has a location property as well, and I can simply drag and move my picture around on screen, or I can come into the location and I can specify a left value, comma, top value. So 0, 0 would put it in the upper left-hand corner. As with the other controls, we can lock this once we get in place. We don't accidentally move it. We can give our PictureBox a name. The Hungarian notation for a PictureBox traditionally is PIC. So I might just name this one PIC animal or pic animal. I have seen some developers use PBX for a PictureBox or PB, but pic is generally the traditional. I'm going to go ahead and make the size mode normal again. I'm going to stretch out my PictureBox here a little bit. Actually, let's make the size mode centered. And I changed the size of the picture box itself. So I have a little bit of a border around the image. And there's a back color property here. If you want to put a little border around your picture, you can make the picture box a little bit larger than the image. And just change the back color. I'm going to delete this picture box and create another one. In addition to the image property, there's also a background image property. And I'm going to go ahead and import another image. This is a tiled image. It's 100 by 100 pixels. I'm going to click OK. That tiled image now is repeated throughout my picture box. I'm going to stretch the picture box out because I also have a background image layout property set to tile. If I set that to, say, center, the image would be centered in the picture box. I could stretch it. I could choose none, so I can put it in the upper left-hand corner. But this is a repeating tile image, so in this case I'm going to choose tile. Now to give you an idea, let me bring in another background image. There's another tiled image. And if we wanted to see just that image again, I can change the background layout to center. Now I can put another image on top of this that would be in the foreground. And I might want to center that image. So there we have in the same picture box a background image and a foreground image, or the image property controlling that foreground image. Another property in the picture box is of the border style. And if you wanted to put a border around your image, there's a fixed single and fixed 3D option. And as with the other controls, there is a visible property where you could hide the picture box itself or show it, setting that property either true or false. Some of the other uses of picture boxes might be to include maybe like a banner at the top, or a description or title for the program. Or perhaps some type of design element. Here I'm just going to add kind of a sliver banner over on the left-hand side. Of course, we could take that, and if you right-click on an object, you can choose to send it to back or bring it to front. I'm going to send this to the back. So I can layer my objects as I'm designing them. Or we might include the logo for a company. And you can use JPEGs, BMPs, PNG files. PNG files have an advantage that they can be transparent, and you can create those in a program like Photoshop. So I'm going to add a PNG file. And just to demonstrate that that is in fact transparent, I'm just going to take a label create a label here at the bottom, and I'm going to set the auto size to false. And I'm going to set the back color to black. Now that's on top of my picture box. I'm going to right click on it and choose Send to Back. It's transparent, but it also has a back color property. So I'm going to set the back color to black. You can see the graphic itself is transparent, and we're seeing the back color behind it. We are not necessarily seeing that black box behind it. I simply use that as a design element.